Alright, hello everyone, and welcome back to my Arath solo campaign. Today I'm going to be doing session 2, so let's get straight to it. So, for a recap, last time in session 1, our character Kasark the Barbarian, he started out on his quest to track down the man who murdered his family. He set out across the map of the local area here, and he's heading towards this outpost where he knows that a tournament is going to be held, and he believes that Lorondon is going to be at this tournament, and he's going to try use it as an opportunity to potentially fight him, or maybe we don't know exactly how things will go down, but that's kind of the plan. Yeah, Kasark started out in this hex here, and he explored for a bit. He found a desert oasis out in the sand dunes as he was walking, and at this oasis he found some new NPCs from like a new faction that we fleshed out last session, who were called the Iron Pact. And these were kind of these like well-armored knights almost, and they are kind of like a mercenary warband out in Arath. So yeah, they turned up. Kasark met them. They were relatively nice. They just finished up battle with a bunch of desert lizards. Since he had so much armor, Kasark asked them if they were willing to trade. They were a little stingy, so they asked for 60 silver for some light armor, and Kasark agreed, but he didn't have 60 silver, so he gave them 40 silver and 5 of his rations. So we only have 1 ration left, so we might run out. We need to be careful about that, but we have light armor now, so that's cool. After that, night fell, and Kasark camped, and while he was camping, a Black Legion champion actually kind of came up to his camp and began interrogating him. Kasark did a good job of, pretending to be just like a local clueless hermit, and the Black Legion champion bought it and realized, hey, this guy doesn't really know anything what's going on. But it turned out the Black Legion champion was looking for these Iron Pact guys. So yeah, he believed that Kasark had never heard of them, but Kasark, once the Black Legion champion left, he figured, man, I should go warn them that they're being hunted by the Black Legion. So he went back to their camp and he warned them in time, fortunately, and they thanked Kasark, and they quickly head out through the night to evade these Black Legion scouts. So, with all that wrapped up, Kasark finished camping for the night, and he rested until morning. So that's where we'll start today. So we're in day 2. As the sun rises on the desert dunes of Arath, and the tournament that Kasark is heading to is 3 days away. So we need to make sure we get there in time. We are only 1 hex away right now though, so it shouldn't be too tricky. Unless, touch wood, because you never know what might come out and attack us in the wilderness. We also only have 1 ration left, which could potentially be a problem, especially in town. We're going to need to buy rations. Now that I think about it, we have no silver, so once we get to this village, it's not like we're going to be able to pay for any food or shelter there. So that is a bit of an issue. So I think the first thing I'm going to quickly do is check for like a terrain change. So the previous hex that we were going through was like desert dunes, so I'm just going to check if it's also desert dunes or if it changes. So I'm going to say on a roll of 5 or 6, the terrain will change. Okay, 2. So yeah, it's just more dunes, which makes sense. So then we'll just go through kind of the Arath travel. Alright, first thing to do is roll for the weather. So it's using the summer weather here, because we're out in the middle of a desert. So let's see. Ooh, 6. Windstorm / tornado, oh gosh. A wall of whirling wind and debris lasting most of the day. No travel today, foraging impossible, -2 to get lost. Well, that's quite tragic. So I think then, narratively what happens is Kasark probably wakes up in this desert oasis, and maybe he was, I don't know if he was in like a cave, but maybe kind of behind a bit of a hillock or something to give him some, shelter. And I think as he wakes up, stepping past the kind of trees, he would see that this terrible sandstorm is whipping up, in the, let's see, the southwest direction. So yeah, seeing this sandstorm appearing, he's going to go, well, I can't travel through that, and I think he's just going to kind of stay at this oasis area for the day. Now, even though he's staying put, and he's not foraging either because the sandstorm, so he can't go out and forage, but there could still be, well, there won't be a POI because he's not going anywhere, but there will be, yes, potentially an encounter. So let's see, on a 5 to a 6, there'll be an encounter today. 1. Okay, I mean, that makes sense. I guess no one else is wanting to go out and travel in the sandstorm either. So yeah, Kasark stays put for the day. He sits in his little camp and waits out the storm. Now, unfortunately for us, that means that we are wasting a day for this tournament timer, so it's going to be 2 days away now. And we're also going to have to eat our only ration we have left. So I now have 0 rations. So we're definitely going to have to forage. Yeah, so 0 rations. That is brutal. Hopefully I find some, food or something out while traveling tomorrow. We'll definitely do some like foraging. And yeah, hopefully I find something. Because if not, I starve, I guess? I don't actually know what happens if you have no rations. I'm not going to check though, because hopefully I won't have to find out. Oh yeah, oh my gosh, okay. Something I kind of just completely forgot about is XP. So I believe in this game, I'm going to double check. Characters are given 1 XP per meaningful session. Meaningful simply relates to the idea that the session was a generative one and enjoyable, during which time the character faced challenges, explored, or otherwise interacted with the game world. I think that's a completely fair system. I like it. So yeah, I think we definitely will have 1 XP gained for last session. Okay, so then we're going to just move on straight to day 3. So we got 2 days till the tournament, we got no rations, and we're 1 hex away. So let's get going. We are going to roll for weather again, and I guess pray that there's not more storm, because then we're just screwed. So let's see. That's cocked. 1. Clear skies. Nice. +1 to getting lost, +1 to foraging. Perfect. So now we can get going. And that +1 to foraging will definitely come in handy for making sure that I do not starve. Okay, so next we gotta roll to get lost, or to avoid getting lost, hopefully. So 1 to 2 is usually lost, but we have a +1. So anything other than a 1, and we are heading in the right direction. 5. I'll take it. Alright. So we're not lost, we're heading on our way, and now we have a chance to forage while we do so. So foraging will reduce the day's movement to 50% of whatever it would be normally. So that means I'm gonna delay my travel by basically another day. However, should still be able to make it in time because the tournament's 2 days away. So we can spend 2 days traveling and yeah, be there just in time. So now we just make our foraging check and we get to add 1. 3 + 1 is 4. So good harvest. A successful forage. Gain 3 rations. Awesome. So I'm not sure exactly where Kasark finds that out in the desert dunes. I guess he just manages to find maybe like a cactus that he can get some water out of and stuff like that to help him to press on. Definitely putting those survival skills to good use. Alright, now we see if we come across a point of interest in this new hex. So let's see. Ooh, 6. So yeah, on a 5 to 6, we have a point of interest. Okay, so now we do D66 to see what the point of interest is. That'll be 56. I didn't say before I rolled. I usually do the black dice as the 10s. You just have to believe me. Okay. 56. Dungeon / ruin. Oh, wow. Okay. That's interesting. That's potentially quite the distraction. I wonder if that has anything to do with the forbidden text that we heard about last session. Wow. Okay. Okay, so I think the first thing that we're going to do is just roll in a couple of these tables to determine what kind of dungeon this is that has been found. So first we can roll nature of the location. 5. It's a fort. Okay. Interesting. And we can check size. 4. It's large. 7 areas. Okay, a large fort. Interesting. Okay, so Kasark has come across this large fort here, as you can see represented by my amazing cardboard terrain. So with this large fort, I think the idea with fort is this is kind of meant to be a, a faction's hideout or something like that. As opposed to the other options, which are like ruins and actual dungeons or like caverns, underground, stuff like that. But this is a fort, right? So what I'm thinking is, since like on the map we're so close to this area which was meant to be the Ashasim outpost, yeah, I'm kind of thinking that this fort might just be the Ashasim fort that Kasark had kind of heard about, that was supposed to be nearby this village with where the tournament was being held, right? Or maybe it's not the same hideout, but it's like another one of their hideouts. I think that's what it could be. Other than that, the Iron Pact came to mind, but we already know where their hideout is, and I don't think they necessarily would have lied. I don't think it's likely they would have like lied to Kasark, because they had a really good reaction roll. So I don't think it's the Iron Pact, and the other thing it could be is, of course, the Black Legion. This could just be a Black Legion fortress, which I do think that is fairly possible. So I think we're just going to do some Oracle questions there to see which one of these factions Kasark has kind of come across. And I think first I'm going to do, and check for if it's Ashasim, and I'm going to make it likely, honestly, because I think that could make a lot of sense. So let's see. Yeah, well, there you go. A 1 and a 2. So this is not an Ashasim fort. Gotta love solo gaming. You never know what's gonna happen next. So I guess then I would ask, like, is this the Black Legion? And I'll say that's likely at this point because we have seen them activity nearby, right? We ran into them while camping the other day. So let's see. Wow, 2 more too. So it's not a Black Legion fort. Who is in this fort? I think maybe there isn't some spectacular faction here. Maybe it is just like a group of bandits, or maybe it's like abandoned. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna ask now, is this place more or less abandoned? Not necessarily empty. There might be plenty of monsters or even people in there, but I mean, like, maybe it's abandoned from its original purpose. Like, it used to be a Black Legion outpost, or even it used to be an Ashasim fort, but those original inhabitants abandoned it, and now it's occupied by, like, bandits or monsters or something like that. So is it abandoned? 4. So that'll be a yes. A yes, but. Yeah, so I interpret that as, like, yes, it's abandoned, but something new has moved in. Okay. So that was definitely one of those moments in solo where the Oracle took me for a spin. It gave me a lot of no, but I think it led us to a pretty interesting outcome. Okay, so moving back into the gameplay, I think, yeah, Kasark, he comes over a hill and he sees through the wind, maybe some sand blows over, and he's able to see this fort, this large fort on the horizon, but it is clearly old and a little ruined. Not like a literal ruin, but it is like a bit rough around the edges, clearly. Like it looks abandoned. And yeah, I'm imagining like this big stone fort, and where it looks like, you know, the lights aren't on. I guess they wouldn't have lights. Well, they have torches. There's no torches lit, and stuff like that. Okay, cool. So I just quickly chuck that on the map. So the abandoned fort. So I think as Kasark sees it, I don't think he's immediately going to be able to notice whoever's inside, and I think we're actually going to make a quick presence check, I'll say, for him to just kind of scope it out, have a look, and see if he can tell like any quick like signs of life, of like, is something in there. You know, it could be like footprints, or, you know, hearing things moving around in there. So let's see, presence. So that's a 6 plus 1 is 7, which would be a fail because we need an 8. So he's looking around and he's not sure if anything's in there or not from an outside glance. You know, I think we have to be brave, and I think we just have to head in. Because, I mean, come on, when you're presented with an abandoned fort in Arath, and you're a barbarian, you've got to go in there, you've got to see what's inside. So I think we're going to at least step our foot into this dungeon, see what's going on. But we do need to remember we've got this tournament to get to, so we need to not get carried away. But yeah, it could be interesting to see what's in here. So let's do it. We're going to do some dungeon exploring. Kasark is going to step up here and enter the abandoned fort. Okay, so Arath has a really cool determining dungeon areas system here, where we are rolling a dice pool onto the page, and kind of that determines the layout of, you know, the relative dice positions. Each one is like a room, and then the number on each die determines what type of room or area it is. Okay, there is actually a note for solo play here where our initial roll determines the layout, but we don't use the dice number. Instead, we re-roll on each room we enter so that we are surprised by what we find, which makes sense. So we'll follow that. But yeah, first thing we'll do is determine the layout. So a large dungeon is meant to have 7 areas. I do not have 7d6 on me right now, so I will go get some. 1 sec. Alright, voila, there are 7d6. Which is how much we need to determine the layout of this dungeon. So I'm going to roll them onto the page. I hope this works on the first try. This can be a messy process sometimes, but let's see. Okay, we lost a couple, but most of them are in there, so I'll just roll these last 2. Okay, cool. So this will be our layout. So let me space these out a bit. Something like that. Cool. Okay, so now I'm going to trace around these and kind of create a cool looking layout for the fort. Okay, cool. So there we go. I have traced around them and kind of created the map of the abandoned fort. I tried to make it actually look like a fort, right? So I tried to set up these hallways and stuff so that there is a bit of a perimeter wall around the whole thing. And then these 3 rooms in the middle were quite close, so I decided to just combine them combine their walls to be back-to-back rooms without having like connecting corridors. So yeah, there it is. Alright, I decided to quickly go over it in ink so that it's a bit clearer to see. And I put some doors here between those rooms so you can see the connections, and then I decided this will be our entrance point because it's at the top, and that makes sense. So yeah, we'll come in here. We have 2 different paths we can potentially follow, so it should be pretty cool. But again, we don't know if we want to explore this thing fully because we do still need to get back to the tournament in a couple days. So as Kasark kind of steps in to this first room of the abandoned fort, I imagine, you know, he's kind of walking through old stone bricks. There's probably a lot of sand everywhere, like on the ground and stuff that's blown in from outside, because I imagine this main entranceway is just open, there's no door. And I imagine it's quite dark in here as well. So he walks into this kind of old fort, and as he does so, we'll roll for area type here. So it's just a straight d6 roll, so let's see what we get. 6, special room / boss. Wow. Okay, so I rolled a 6 there for the first room, which is meant to be a boss room. I'm just going to exercise some solo GM, free will here and say, no, this isn't going to be a boss room. I'm re-rolling that because that's just ridiculous. I don't want to walk straight into a boss room. Sorry. And guys, you can do that. You have permission. So, yeah, we're just going to re-roll that. 4. NPC. Wow, far more interesting. Okay, let's see. So there's a d6 table here of NPCs. So let's see who's here. I got another 4. It's going to be a soldier / mercenary. I'm just going to do a quick oracle check here, I think, to see, is this guy from the Iron Pact? Because we've established that they are a mercenary group in the area, so I think that would make sense. So just do a straight roll. Is this guy Iron Pact? Actually, I'm going to make it likely. Huh. That's a no. So the Iron Pact are nowhere near this area, because we keep getting no's on those rolls. So soldier / mercenary. Could this be an Ash Hassim member? I'll say that's likely as well. 6. That's an extreme yes. So okay, I think what that means is soldier / mercenary. We get, is it an Ash Hassim member? Extreme yes. I think that means yes, it's an Ash Hassim member, and he comes out of the shadows in this abandoned fort to try and attack me. So I think we're just going to jump into a fight here. Now, to be clear, I don't think, we already rolled to see if this was an Ash Hassim fort, and we got no, right? So I don't think this is necessarily the entire fort is controlled by Ash Hassim, but I think this one guy was here, and he saw Kasark come in, because Kasark kind of just wandered in. We didn't try sneak in or anything, which maybe we should have. But he just saw him wander in, and he probably was just like, yeah, I gotta get rid of that guy. Maybe he knows who he is, based on, what happened with Lorondon. Maybe he doesn't. We don't know, we'll find out, but for now, he's trying to stab us in the back. So, let's do some combat. Alright, I've got this rogue-looking miniature here. I think it's just like a human rogue. So I think that'll do for our Ash Hassim. So we're going to put them here. And yeah, we're going to see if we can deal with this guy. Kasark's pretty good in a fight. And he's got armor now too, so... Okay, so we're going to go for our initiative roll here. We need a 4 up, and we get to add our agility. Ooh, that's a 4. Plus 1 is 5, so Kasark's going to go first. So I think this guy tries to creep up on Kasark, but, Kasark maybe hears him kick up a little sand, and there's a little, like, whew, and he's alerted to it. And I imagine his hand immediately goes to his battle axe. And as this guy... I'm imagining like a masked, assassin-looking dude. He jumps up out of the shadows with a dagger, and Kasark brings his battle axe up behind him to parry it just in time. And then he's going to take the initiative. So, okay, looking at the bestiary here, this is what we're up against, Ash Hassim. I guess we should roll for their HP first, because it's 2d6. No way. This guy has 2 hit points. Alright. So we'll do a, just a dice here. Alright, that'll be tracking that guy's hit points. So I don't have to write it down. Cool. He's got leather armor though, so maybe that'll help him. Probably not though. This guy's pretty weak. Okay. Yeah, luckily we got the initiative roll because he has this backstab ability, which would have been brutal if he had surprised us. But we got the initiative, so we're chilling. Now I need to see, actually, how we attack, because this is the first fight of the campaign. We have not attacked yet. This is pretty exciting. So attacking and defending is all done player facing, which I love. That's so good, especially for solo. It just makes it feel much more impactful when all the rolls you're doing are like for your character. So 2d6 plus strength for melee to succeed, and then you roll damage, and then you get to dodge attacks using agility, I think. Alright, so we're gonna now try attack this guy. So we're gonna do 2d6 here, we're gonna add our strength and also a +1 because we have mastery with the battle axe. So here we go. Oh, brutal. That's 4 plus 3 is 7, so we just miss. So yeah, Kasark, after parrying this guy, I think he tries to come down with a heavy blow of his battle axe, but he kind of underestimates his opponent as this assassin darts out of the way very quickly. It's then going to go to the assassin's turn, and he is going to try to stab at us with his dagger. Right, but it's player facing, so that's my roll, and it's good, which means I succeed, which means I dodge. So he tries to stab it with the dagger, but we dodge out of the way. Alright, we're going to come back at him with the battle axe. There we go. That's going to be an 8. Plus an 8 plus 3 is 10, so that definitely hits. And now we get to roll a d6 plus 1 for damage. Boom, 6 damage. Oh, and it's exploding, I think, so. Oh my god, another 6. And then 1. So that's, what, 13 plus 1, 14 damage? Holy. And this guy has 2 health and 1 armor. So the 1 armor brings it down to 12 damage. And then he takes 2 damage plus 10 damage of overkill. Yeah, Kasark just absolutely decapitates this guy, I think. Just completely deals with him. And we won't be hearing from him again anytime soon, I don't think. Nice. So it's too bad that couldn't have been a more helpful NPC, but I am glad that the combat went down easily. I think immediately what we're going to do now, though, is we need to get on high alert, because now we know that this place is dangerous. Now we don't know how many more assassins are potentially here. It might be none, but immediately I think Kasark is going to try to look around using his presence again to try to find anyone else that's hiding. Okay, actually, hold up. Looking at this, it says stealth, int check 8+ to detect. So I think in this game you're meant to use intelligence to detect, not presence. So that's my bad. But yeah, from now on I'll use int. So let's see, can we see any more assassins? It's going to be an 8. An 8 minus 1 is 7. So we don't know if there are more here. So I think for that, we might just make some oracle checks as we go to determine if we potentially get surprise attacked again. And if we do get attacked, it'll be at a surprise. So the assassin will be able to get their backstab attack where they add a d6. But for now, we don't know if there are any. So I think we're just going to continue on. And then maybe as we enter the next room, we'll do an oracle check to see if we get surprised. I think that's a fair way to do it. So I think we're going to head... I'm going to head into this cluster of rooms here. So we'll enter this room next. And we'll roll d6 to determine what the contents of room 2 is. Okay, that's a 2, which is a hazard, obstacle, / trap. Okay, so we have a lovely table here of potential traps that we might have just walked into. So let's roll 2d12 and see what we got. Okay, that's an 8, pretty close to average. Tripwire alarm, 1 to 3 on d6 chance to alert nearby enemies. Alright, that could potentially be bad if there's more assassins here. So let's see. 4, okay. So we don't set it off. Kasark sees the tripwire there, backs up. But that's interesting because, you know, this place was meant to be more or less abandoned. So if there's armed tripwires here, they could be from a long time ago, or it could be from someone new coming here and setting them up. So by the way, I'm just taking notes here kind of onto the dungeon map. I find that can be a good way to keep track of things in a dungeon without writing everything out as a journal. Pretty helpful. So yeah, in this room we have tripwire, and it is currently armed, but it hasn't been set off. So I think as Kasark navigates over the tripwire, what I am going to do is, since he failed his intelligence check before, I'm just going to do a quick oracle roll. Is there an assassin here who jumps out at us? 3. No. But. Okay, so I think on a but, I'm going to say, no, there isn't one here, but Kasark, maybe he sees one in the next room. So I think the door is open, and as he's stepping in and looking around, battle axe in hand, slowly stepping through this room, his sandals kind of tapping quietly as he can over the stone bricks. He peers through this door and he sees on the other side just a glint, a moment of movement as an assassin darts across the doorway. And I think he's going to take note of that and be ready for potentially an encounter in, I'm going to say, this room here. And I'm going to be honest, Kasark doesn't really have a lot of options here. He's kind of just got his battle axe, so he doesn't have like a ranged weapon or anything that he could use here. But I think Kasark is going to try to find like a rock or a pebble on the ground to potentially throw into the room, and distract or set off any traps in there or something like that. So I'm just going to say, he finds a rock because we're in an abandoned fort. I'm sure there'd be plenty, little pebbles and stuff. But I'm going to have him make an agility check to kind of throw the stone into the room and see if he can potentially, I guess, distract the assassin who's in there. Okay, that's a 10 plus 1 for my agility is 11. So I succeed. So I think what happens is, as Kasark throws this rock into the room, it startles the assassin who is in there. I think the assassin was probably hiding in the corner or somewhere behind, maybe like behind a pillar, behind some cover. And as Kasark kind of just like steps in and throws this rock, it startles the assassin. Maybe they had like a bow ready and they fire the arrow, thinking that Kasark had entered the room, but the motion that they saw was actually just this rock flying, right? So they fire this arrow, and Kasark sees this arrow fly, and he sees where it comes from, and he's able to locate this assassin, and kind of get them out of hiding. So I think, yeah, through that process, he's able to find this assassin before they find him, right? And then I think from there, yeah, we're going to go back to initiative, as Kasark is then going to chase them down and fight them. So I think, yeah, from that little rock stunt, I think Kasark has successfully avoided like being surprised. So it's just going to go to an initiative roll, which is good because you don't want to be surprised by these guys, right? These assassins are pretty deadly. So let's see, initiative. 3 plus 1 is 4, so we're going to go first. And I think Kasark, yeah, seeing where this guy was hiding, like behind this little bit of cover, he's just going to charge in, kind of jump over the cover, and just try and bring his battle axe down on this guy. Boom. That's a 9 plus 3. It's an unnatural 12. So that definitely hits. And then we get d6 plus 1 damage. 2 plus 1 is 3 damage. Oh, right. We got to roll for this guy's hit points, though. So hold that thought. This will be his hit points. 8. Okay. So we'll use a d8 to track that. Boom. So he's got 8 hit points. We did 2 plus 1, so we did 3. However, these guys do benefit from 1 leather armor, so that reduces down to only 2 damage going through. So this guy's only got 6 health left. Yeah, he had a bit more of an average HP roll, did this assassin, so he's not going to be quite as much of a pushover. So we'll see what happens for Kasark here. This is crazy though, this fort is full of these assassins. I wonder what's going on here. And I wonder what potentially it has to do with the tournament. we'll see what we can discover as we go. But first, we gotta deal with the immediate threats. So, yep, Kasark is gonna try dodge as this assassin swings his dagger. Ooh. 5 + 1, 6. That's a fail. So Kasark will get hit. So fortunately, these guys only have D6/D. So D6 with disadvantage damage on their dagger. So not too bad. So yeah, D6 disadvantage means 3 damage. Our light armor that we bought blocks 1, so we take 2. So we are going to be reduced down to 3 health, which is not a massive amount. Kind of wishing I went with starting with max HP instead of rolling it right now, but we gotta go with it. Alright, come on. We gotta hit this guy back in a big way. That is not what I had in mind. So 3 + 3 is 6, so that's a miss. So I think Kasark is like a bit wounded from this dagger, and he it makes him miss his next attack. And the rogue is going to try to come in with a follow-up. That's a dodge though, we dodge. Attack back! Yes, oh, almost a crit, but not quite. Okay, so the rogue goes into follow-up, but I think he's a bit overconfident. Kasark, you know, delving into his survival instincts after taking a wound. I think the adrenaline really starts pumping. He dodges out of the way of the dagger, and he brings his battle axe down, and he deals 4 + 1, 5 damage. So that'll reduce this guy down to 5 damage. Only 4 goes through because of the armor, so he's reduced to 2 hit points. Now that is below half of his max, so he's going to make a morale check to stay in this. So roll 2d6, higher than their morale flees or surrenders, lower continues fighting. And the morale for an Asher Sim is 8. So it needs an 8 or higher. That's not an 8 or higher. Alright, so this guy is going to try to flee. And I think he's going to succeed. I mean, these are sneaky assassins as well. So I'm not even going to give Kasark a chance to follow. I think this guy just kind of gets away. He is wounded, he's bloodied, but he probably slips through this door here, shuts it behind him, and Kasark goes to open it. Maybe he finds that it's actually locked. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So I think this guy manages to kind of lock the door behind him to get away. So yeah, that was just kind of one of those solo things where something randomly popped into my head. Oh, he locks the door, and you just kind of go with it. Now it's going to have some gameplay implications because this way of progressing is potentially blocked. Unless we can unlock it, but I'm not sure how Kasark would do that. Alright, so I think Kasark is just going to take a second to catch his breath here after finding that the door is locked. And I'm imagining, you know, this is a fort. It probably has like big stone doors or something like that. I don't think he's getting through this. So that forces him to kind of take a second to stop and catch his breath. While he's doing that, I think, you know, as he cools off, he starts to think, and I'm starting to think too, what's going on here? Why is this place full of assassins, right? Has he found the Ashasim hideout? Maybe it didn't look like it was, but it is. Or maybe it isn't their hideout, but all these guys are here for some reason, and I think he's starting to wonder, you know, why. So I think what he's actually going to do is he's going to backtrack, he's going to carefully step over this tripwire again, and he's going to head back to the entrance room, and he's going to try to head back, and he finds this body of the assassin he dealt with earlier, and I think he's going to take a moment to loot it. So he's going to grab this guy's dagger first of all, because you can never have too many weapons. And let's see, what else would they have? He'd have a leather armor, but we just got some kind of light piecemeal armor. Is that the word? Piecemeal? Something like that. You know what I mean? You know, like kind of scrappy padded armor. We just got some. So we don't need that leather armor. And realistically, armor would be very cumbersome to carry. So yeah, I don't think Kasark would bother with that. But I think what he's going to look for now is he's going to try to find, like, does this guy have any kind of orders or letters on him or things of that nature that would potentially help Kasark to understand why they're here. So I'm just going to do a straight oracle roll to see, does he find something like that? I've dropped the dice. 3. No, he doesn't find something like that, but I'm going to say no, he doesn't find something like a letter or a specific orders, but he does find something which makes their job here obvious. And the first thing that comes to mind for me there is if we're exploring an abandoned fort and these guys are supposed to be rogue, assassin, thief kind of characters, I think what he finds on this guy is like a bit of treasure. I think he finds a small gem or something. And I think as Kasark finds that, he realizes, oh, these guys are here, they're looking for treasure, they're like treasure hunting in this abandoned fort. And I've luckily come across them as they're doing that. Okay, so that's really cool that we've discovered the motivations of these guys, but also I'm wondering, what is this treasure that Kasark has found? Because hey, treasure is cool. So I think there's a treasure table in here. Yeah, okay, this is cool. So ancient coin, they're worth 10 silver. I'm gonna say, you know, since that this kind of just came off the top of my head, I didn't necessarily earn this treasure, you know what I mean? I think we're just gonna go with, it's gonna be 1 ancient coin worth 10 silver that we've found. So it's still good, because it means Kasark has money again, which is awesome. Okay, yeah, so Kasark, he recovers this ancient coin, he puts 2 and 2 together, and he figures out why the Ashasim are here. And I think armed with that knowledge, he is going to continue on and try to, I guess, hopefully stop the Ashasim here. Maybe he could interrogate one and ask them about Lorondon and stuff like that. I think that would be a good idea. Actually, yeah, I think he wants to interrogate them. So that's going to be our next little goal here. Let's see if we can try to find another assassin, potentially the one who ran, and interrogate them. So I think since this door is now locked, we're just going to have to head down this other way and head down this hallway into this new room. So let's roll up a new room. 2 is going to be hazard / obstacle / trap, of course. Alright, let's see what kind of hazard we have. 4, oh dear, false floor. Agility check 8+ to detect / avoid or fall for d6 damage. So I think considering this is an abandoned fort, I'm going to interpret that as not so much a false floor, but a kind of old crumbling floor. So I think, yeah, Kasark, he enters this room and he steps on a couple stone bricks and he feels them start to shake and he realizes that they are kind of coming loose and crumbling away into the earth. So quick, jump out of the way. 7 + 1 agility for the 8. Boom. Just barely we succeed. At the last possible moment, Kasark just jumps out of the way, he scrambles up, and I imagine he falls down a little bit, but he kind of, you know, grabs onto the ledge of the floor that's remaining, and just barely grabbing on, he's able to lift himself up and avoid the trap. Awesome. Alright, I think having avoided that crumbling floor, Kasark is then just going to press on through this fort, eager to try and track down the Ashasim who fled from him earlier, to hopefully interrogate them. So we'll do another new room for this room here. 1, empty. Okay. I think for the sake of this, I'm going to interpret empty as potentially meaning that there's an assassin hiding here, right? So Kasark sees this empty room and he's suspicious. He's like, you know, is someone actually hiding here? So he's going to make an int check to try and spot an assassin, first of all. And then after he does that, we'll do like an oracle check to see if anyone was actually here. And then we can kind of resolve the combat from there if they are. And if they aren't, then it doesn't matter because no one was there. So let's see. He's going to look around. Okay, good. We needed a good roll because we have bad intelligence. But 10 - 1 is 9, so he succeeds. So he has a good scan of the room. So now that we are looking in the room, we can ask the Oracle, is there a assassin hiding here? 6, extreme yes. Yeah, I'd say there's an assassin here then. And Kasark spots them. So yeah, I think Kasark kind of slowly pushes the door open and he hears like a little sound and he thinks, oh, someone's hiding here. And then he turns and he spots them. And before we jump into this combat, I'm going to quickly ask, is this the assassin from the previous room who escaped? And I'm just going to do a straight roll. 2. No. So this is a third assassin here. Boom. So there they are. So yeah, we're just going to jump into combat. One more fight. Hopefully this goes well. Kasark only has 3 HP left, so it might be a little bit of a mistake to charge into combat like this, but we'll see. Alright, so first I'm just going to check for the assassin's HP. Alright, they have 9 hit points. It's quite a few hit points. It's quite a few. Then we'll do our initiative roll, so looking for a 4 or higher. 4. So Kasark will go first. I think at this point he's not messing around with these guys. He spots this guy and he's just going to charge at this assassin, try to take him on with his battle axe. Here we go. Okay, it's a 5 on the dice, but we get a +3 due to our +2 strength and our skill. So we actually get an 8, so we actually hit. Yes, I'm glad I picked the skill. I knew it'd be good. I thought like +1 to attack rolls and damage rolls has to be insane in a 2d6 system, right? And it is. Alright, let's see the damage. Alright, it rolled off camera, but we got a 4, +1 is 5. -1 for the leather armor of the assassin is 4 damage going through. True. So we'll go down to 5. It's not below half for him, so he is not going to try to run away yet. So he's going to lash out with his dagger, and Kasark is going to try to dodge. Okay, 7 +1 agility though is 8, so Kasark dodges out of the way. Alright, and now Kasark's going to jump back in to attack. 7 +3 is going to definitely hit, so Kasark hits again. Let's see the damage. Alright, 2 damage, +1, -1, so 2 goes through. Nice. So Kasark's doing great in this fight. He hasn't been hit yet, and he's got multiple hits in already. He's just going wild on this Ashes Sim. I'm glad I've been able to test out Kasark's combat ability today, because I definitely built him as a barbarian, and it's paying off today. Okay, so now that this guy's on 3 health, we're going to see if he tries to flee. So he needs an 8 or higher on his morale. 5, fail. So this guy's going to try to flee. Now this time I'm going to say, there's not, looking at the map, there's no doors here or anything. I'm going to give Kasark the chance to pursue, especially because Kasark now is thinking of trying to interrogate one of these guys and figure out what's going on, potentially figure out, if they know where Lorondon is, if they know who he is, if they were sent to kill him specifically or anything like that. So he's going to try to go for the interrogation. So I'm going to say Kasark is going to make an agility check here to try to pursue this guy. And if he fails, then unfortunately, this assassin is going to get away as well. So let's see. Ooh, that's a fail, unfortunately. 4 + 1, 5. Doesn't make the 8. So these assassins are slippery, and I think Kasark's going to chase after him. He's going to yell out. He's going to be like, wait, what are you doing here? Why are you looking for me? And then he's going to be like, where's Lorondon? And he's just yelling out at this guy as he's chasing him. And I think the assassin is going to hear him, and I think I'm just going to do a quick oracle question of like, does the assassin reply when he hears Kasark yelling out and asking him, where's Lorondon? Let's see. 2. No. That makes sense. These guys are secretive. So I think Kasark is just yelling out at this guy, like, where's Lorondon? What are you doing here? Answer me. And this guy's just going to run. He just manages to find a secret door or something, a little passage, and slip away from Kasark's vision before yeah, Kasark is able to catch him or ask him any questions. Dang, okay, so unfortunately, Kasark has not been able to figure out what's going on with these Ashasim or intercept any of them, but he has beaten 3 in fights now, which that is pretty cool. So I'm pretty much out of time for today, so I'm going to wrap up the session there. We can finish exploring this dungeon in the next session, and then also, you know, get back on the path on our way to the tournament, which we can't forget about. So yeah, that's it for session 2, exploring the abandoned fort. I hope if you watched the whole thing, I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely had a great time. I think the dungeon generation system here that we were able to test out for Kasark is great. You know, it's simple, right? It generates pretty simple dungeon by, you know, most standards, but that's exactly what you need when you're just trying to create a solo narrative. And I think we were able to create a pretty cool narrative today with the assassins being here and a couple cool moments like the tripwire, the locked door, the crumbling floor. All very cool, very flavorful. So yeah, awesome. All right, well, thanks very much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, peace.